Hi, my name is Marc Belaiche. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. Thanks for watching. In this seminar, I'm going to spend some time with Claire Pressman, who's president of References and More Services. And Claire has had a long, extensive career in references, so we're going to get some tips from her today. So Claire, welcome to the webinar today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having me at References and More. Good to see you, Mark.
Nice to see you too. So Claire, maybe you can tell people that are watching, like, just a little bit about yourself and your experience and history in references, because you've had a long career in it. So.
Sure. We have been doing references for over 15 years. The reason I started is I was an agency recruiter, and I noticed a lot of people were making a lot of falsifications on their resumes, especially about education in those days. So I felt that there was a need to keep people honest, so people to present candidates who, or at least so the client knew exactly who they were hiring. And as it evolved, I realized that it's really like a treasure trove. I mean, you ask questions to the referees, and you learn how to help the candidates. You learn about their behaviors, and you can help them. So you can support them, you can develop their career. It's like a nugget. I've had a client who said to me, all these red flags that you present is like a gem, because we really know how to support and onboard this candidate.
Right. So I get this question asked a lot. What should job seekers know about references? Like, what are the best practices for candidates giving references, not giving references? So can you talk about that?
All right. If you're an applicant, you're applying for a job, and someone offers you the job, you really shouldn't be surprised when they're asking you for references. You should have your references prepared. To prepare your references, you should have a typed out list of who the person is, your relationship to the person, supervisor, colleague, client. Don't give friends or family. Their email address, their phone number, the company that you worked with them at. You should have spoken to the referees before you're giving out your contact information. Even if they said to you 3 years ago, they said to you, you know what, you were great, you can use me as a reference always. You don't know if the person is still at that email address, at that phone number, if they're off in Timbuktu. You should always touch base with them before you're giving out their name and number. Best practices, and it makes the whole process go smoother.
Okay, and so another question that comes up a lot is, well, actually two parts. One is a student who doesn't have much work experience. Maybe they're a high school student, and all they may have is a part-time job, or maybe they're a university student looking for something for the summertime. And so that's kind of number one kind of situation. Then number two situation is somebody new to Canada who doesn't have like local references. So maybe you can talk about each one of those situations too.
Great questions. That comes up quite a bit. Okay, let's start with the person that doesn't have a lot of job experience. First of all, it's understood. When someone's hiring you and you're fresh out of school, they understand that you don't have a lot of job experience. However, you could give a teacher, you can give a professor if you're in university. When you're in university, you often have to work in teams. So you can give a colleague who you worked in teams with. Lots of people volunteer. I mean, in high school, you need all these volunteer hours. You can give someone that you volunteered with, someone that you who supervised your volunteer hours. You can give clergy. You can give, if you babysat, if you do any part-time work, anyone that you work for. It doesn't have to be in a professional setting. So if you did some gardening for your neighbor, Mrs. Smith, you can give Mrs. Smith as a reference, but you have to ask Mrs. Smith first and tell Mrs. Smith about the job that you're applying to. You might want to have a little bit of a discussion, but it's very common. In terms of people who are new to Canada, legally, companies cannot say you need to have a Canadian reference. You can give references back from your home country and your past jobs. The only challenge is language. You need to be able to provide references with whom the referees can communicate with. So, I mean, in our case, in my company, we will speak in English or French. That's it. That's the limit of our languages. So we need to be able to communicate with them. You can also, as with new job seekers, you can give volunteer, clergy, someone who helped you with your immigration, anyone who can vouch for your character that's not a friend or family would be a viable referee.
Yeah, great tips. Yeah. So, these days with people having social media accounts and should job seekers be worried about employers going onto their Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, looking at their pictures, maybe even deciding that they don't want to hire somebody because they have, maybe some pictures that might be inappropriate? Like what should someone do?
It's a wild, wild west out there. It's crazy. Social media is crazy for the applicants and for the clients who are looking for people's job. It's not uncommon for someone to want to check your social media, especially if you're applying for something in communications or from PR, journalism, digital marketing. In those cases, you should have your links typed up with your references and be able to hand that to the hiring manager or the recruiter. In terms of your personal social media, whatever you put on your social media, whether good or bad, is out there. Make sure that all your privacy settings are on. And remember that anybody can Google you or anyone can search you. If someone asks you for your social media sites and you give them your professional LinkedIn, your professional Twitter, if you have a professional Instagram, that's great. If they ask you for your personal sites, you might want to ask them why. Because you are allowed to have a private life, but you should probably be careful about what you put out there.
Fair enough. Yeah. So just have another minute or two here. Any other suggestions for job seekers?
I don't know if you've ever heard of anything called reverse references, but someone called us quite recently and asked us if we would do references on her. So she wanted us to call her referees and create reports and ask all the questions that if she were the hiring manager that we would ask, create the reports and give them to her. And I asked her why, and she said because slander often occurs and there's people who want to make sure that you don't get a job. First of all, as long as anybody says, whatever anybody says, as long as it's true, even if it's negative, is not illegal. Slander, would be discriminatory. Also, you should know what your referees are going to be saying about you. You should be able to communicate with them, and there should be no surprise. So I just want to put that out there. Just communicate with your referees because it can make or break whether you get a job.
Great tips. Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Claire. How someone can get a hold of you through your website? References?
Okay, yeah. You can please get onto our website at www.referencesandmoreservices.com. I realize that's a mouthful, or you could reach us on LinkedIn, either under me, Claire Pressman, or References and More Services, or Twitter, References and More Services.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Claire. And thanks for sharing your tips. That's great.
It was great to see you. Thanks for having me.